weaponization of the Department of Justice against Mr. Trump, which is obviously a narrative that you would like to deploy if your leader is in fact a criminal, was convicted in certain places, was indicted in others, and had the prosecutive team say, hey, we had a good case here when it was closed down. So faced with all that evidence, obviously the thing you want to say is weaponization, fake news, all the usual denials. So I'm going to take a minute and compare what happened in a recent case, the one that was referred to about the unlawful effort to try to seize climate funds. And because the veto period had passed by about 2 years, to cook up analysis that would have allowed them to seize the funds had to cook up a crime that would give them the ability to say, well, you know, while we're investigating this crime, we need to seize the funds. So that's the backdrop. And in the course of that, the first thing that happened is that the political appointee was told by his career staff that there was no evidence of any crime and they couldn't proceed. Do you recall any time in any of the Trump federal cases where a political appointee was told by the career staff that they had no case?
Lauren Boebert is one of the dumbest members of Congress we have ever seen. No matter what comes out of her mouth, you can expect it to make you sigh, make you roll your eyes, and make you feel a little bit stupider for having heard it. But Lauren Boebert has reached a new level with the dumb things that she says. She has reached the level of not even being able to say them, because as she attempted to make this ridiculous speech attacking the judicial branch holding Donald Trump accountable, she lost the ability to speak, just stumbling over words, slop falling out of her mouth, essentially. After Jamie Raskin called out her line of BS in a takedown we're going to check out. But before we do, if I can quickly ask you to leave a like on this video, and if you haven't already and you enjoy our channel, to hit that subscribe button. It goes a long way, and it really does mean a lot to me. Now, before we get into Lauren Boebert's complete humiliating meltdown, I want to see the call out from Jamie Raskin that triggered her to crumble.
The majority was bringing legislation forward to clean up a major policy crisis taking place within the first 100 days of the Trump administration. And that sounded pretty good to me because we're drowning in crises. The problem is that this bill does not address any of the real major policy crises of the first 100 days that Trump has caused for America. They are wasting our time with this bill by misdiagnosing and mislabeling the judicial response to these crises as a crisis itself. The whole country is reeling right now from the economic disaster Trump has plunged us into. He destroyed more than $10 trillion in American wealth in a single week, and then he went golfing and bragged to America about winning the tournament at his own golf course. That's like bragging about being endorsed by your own campaign manager. So much winning. The country can hardly stand how much winning Trump is doing for himself and Elon Musk and his billionaire cabinet. Perhaps he could have yelled "4" on the Greenway so tens of millions of Americans could have taken our retirement savings out of the stock market before he hit us in the head with a golf ball. Trump's ruinous tariffs have crushed our relationships with democratic allies and loyal trade partners like Canada, Mexico, the UK, Germany, France, while delicately carving out an exception for Trump's friends in the Home Office back in Russia. When asked why Putin uniquely escapes the wrath of Trump's global trade war, we're told it's because Trump doesn't want to interfere with the negotiations taking place between Russia and Ukraine for a ceasefire, an explanation that might have somewhat more force if Trump had not made sure that the tariffs do apply to Ukraine, as they do. The basis for this most imbecilic and destructive trade war in the history of the world is the profound economic research and policy writings of one Ron Vera, a completely fictional economist conjured up by Trump advisor Peter Navarro, a real person who Elon Musk just called, quote, a moron and dumb as a sack of bricks. Navarro's last name, delightfully, is an anagram for Ron Vera. You can try this yourself at home. Navarro turns into Ron Vera. Navarro figured that out himself, perhaps the greatest achievement of the Trump administration so far. What an enchanting and clever basis upon which to crash the economy of the United States of America. Well, despite the fact that Congress, not the president, has the power to regulate international commerce and legislate tariffs, our GOP colleagues don't even want to have one hearing on the breathtaking economic folly and wreckage of this fling into the abyss of trade war with the world. Much less do they want to do anything to reverse this policy nightmare for tens of millions of business people, farmers, workers, retirees, and consumers being throttled by this historic self-inflicted wound. No, today they want to talk about the real emergency, which is the power of United States district courts to issue universal injunctions rather than just injunctions that apply to the specific parties in the case.
Donald Trump almost talked exclusively on the campaign trail about this weaponization of the DOJ that was not happening. And now Donald Trump is weaponizing the DOJ. We've talked extensively about his threats against anyone who will oppose him, and Democrats in Congress like Jasmine Crockett, and now he is looking to attack, undermine, and cut out the judiciary. Cut out checks and balances on him entirely in this assault that we are seeing on the judges who hold him accountable. And if you don't want to be held accountable, if you want fewer injunctions, stop breaking the law. It is that simple, but clearly not too simple to some. Like Lauren Boebert, who launched into this whole tirade attacking the judges. It was a couple of minutes. I only want to play the beginning and then the clip when it all fell apart. Her unable to speak. Let's take a look.
In support of the No Rogue Rulings Act, a bold and necessary step to rein in activist judges. Take Judge James Borser's ruling last month, halting deportations of Venezuelan gang members under the Alien Enemies Act. President Trump invoked a law from 1798 to protect our streets, and one judge decided he knows better than the commander-in-chief. It's time to take our government back from the black-robed bureaucrats. I support this bill, and I thank the gentleman from California, Mr. Issa, for introducing it. I yield.
She couldn't pronounce the name of the judge, the name of the president, and the year of the statute. And we're supposed to listen to her on anything? Lauren, I would stick to being an audience member and not a performer. Clearly, you have more fun with the former. We don't want to see either. I don't want to participate in either. I don't want to have to witness either. Maybe you should just go away entirely. These people are ridiculous. They can't even make the argument. They're too busy tripping over their own BS. It's nonsensical. And it deserves the condemnation that we see from Democrats, who are completely unapologetic in calling it out. And one of my favorites, someone who we're playing a lot on this show recently, and let me know if you're enjoying him. I certainly am. And other Democrats you want to see, that's Senator Sheldon Whitehouse right here.
The Trump MAGA crowd parroting the notion that there was weaponization of the Department of Justice against Mr. Trump, which is obviously a narrative that you would like to deploy if your leader is in fact a criminal, was convicted in certain places, was indicted in others, and had the prosecutive team say, hey, we had a good case here when it was closed down. So faced with all that evidence, obviously the thing you want to say is weaponization, fake news, all the usual denials. So I'm going to take a minute and compare what happened in a recent case, the one that was referred to about the unlawful effort to try to seize climate funds. And because the veto period had passed by about 2 years, to cook up analysis that would have allowed them to seize the funds had to cook up a crime that would give them the ability to say, well, while we're investigating this crime, we need to seize the funds. So that's the backdrop. And in the course of that, the first thing that happened is that the political appointee was told by his career staff that there was no evidence of any crime and they couldn't proceed. Do you recall any time in any of the Trump federal cases where a political appointee was told by the career staff that they had no case?
Senator, I've been doing the job for 10 years, and I can tell you that I have never, ever seen anyone, myself or anyone else, be directed to prosecute or drop a case based on politics.
Yeah.
It just does not. It does not.
And in this
figure
case, the woman who was at the head of the office who told the political appointee that he had no case was forced to resign as her penalty for not going forward. Nothing like that ever happened in any of the Trump investigations that I can recall. Do you have any recollection of any career folks being fired for refusing to go forward with a case that had no merit?
Senator, my supervisors have always expected me to do the right thing. I think something that people need to understand about prosecutors is we're unique in the sense that our job is not to win our case, it's to do justice. And so every supervisor I've ever had would demand nothing less than me to do the right thing for justice. And if that means dismissing a case, that's what you would do. Let me just go forward a little bit more, because after that, what happened is that the political appointee went forward with a pleading that no career attorney would sign. The only signature on it was the political appointee. Did you recall that ever happening in any of the Trump cases? In my personal experience, I've never had a situation where I was asked to do something that, except for the Eric Adams case, that was the first time I was asked to sign something that
unusual to go forward with a pleading where no career attorney will sign for the Department of Justice, correct? Only with a political appointee signature.
Yes, Senator.
Yes, it is. And then in the Trump cases, I don't recall anyone ever getting shot down, any of the prosecutive team, when they went for an order. And in this case, when the political appointee went for the order and went to the magistrate judge, he got shut down. When I was a U.S. attorney, if we got shot down for an order by one of our district judges, that would have been like, stop, figure out what went wrong. This is a never event. Let's figure this out so it doesn't happen. Do you recall that any of the Trump orders were ever shot down by a judge, or every time that prosecution team went to a court for an order, they were successful?
Senator, not sure about which order. I would say that it would be if I went to a court and was shot down for probable cause, that's happened, but you try to avoid that.
Yeah, you try very hard to avoid it. And after that's happened, do you ever go to another district to try to shop the same case where the judge had found that there was no basis to proceed?
It's never come up in my career, Senator. If I did, I would certainly tell the next judge that the last one found no probable cause, and that probably would not bode well.
And then I don't believe in the Trump cases any prosecutor ever made public statements outside of the pleadings about the culpability or wrong of the subject of the investigation. And yet in this case, both the political appointee and the agency chief who was engaged made public derogatory comments, false allegations, it seems, of fraud, defamatory per se. What are the concerns of the Department of Justice when political appointees make statements about the potential guilt or culpability of an uncharged person?
I love that he's just not pulling punches. I am fully supportive. This is exactly what we need. Donald Trump is doing everything he claimed Joe Biden was and taking it to another level. This is absurd. This is dangerous. And we have to use our agency to, although they shouldn't be reliant on us to do so, but to show the institutions, the law firms, the colleges folding to Donald Trump that he does not have the power behind him. We, the people, do. That is the importance of the protests we saw this weekend. That is the importance of using our voice. That is the importance of independent media. And if you want to support that right here on this show, you can hit that subscribe button, leave a like on this video, and if you stuck around to the end, drop a blue heart in the comments. And until next time, I'll see you.